One man. Goodbye. Hello, Heisman.
20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. All the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone.
Four-man Alabama rush. Got him. Oh, no, they didn't. Oh, my gracious.
Yep.
How about that?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into the Three Technique, the college football podcast at the intersection of the X's and O's and the Jimmies and Joes. It's a Trey and Garrett show. Once again tonight, we're back all together, or I guess not all together because Mitch isn't here, but you and I are back together, putting some glorious college football content together in the month of April. Couldn't be better. Couldn't be wanting to do anything else in an April evening. How are you, my friend?
I was gonna say cue High School Musical 3. The boys are back, right? You know, we're gonna get up there, got to do the little poses in the junkyard and all that. Yeah, it's time for another one of them. So you know what you sign up for. You click the video, you see the two heads pop up you're seeing right now. You know what you're getting yourself into. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I am personally thrilled. We got Masters coming up, obviously. We're just getting into the baseball season, professional baseball, obviously. So really excited that that's going on too. Beat the Mariners last night. What do you know, man? Life's looking pretty decent right now.
I'm gonna call back to your reference there for just a second. Was that the one that they released in theaters after
I think
the first
so.
two were so
because
successful?
they had the massive budget for that third one, and you could very clearly tell it was somebody's first time doing CGI or something like that.
I don't think I ever saw that one. I saw the two that were Disney Channel releases. But
It's not good. It's
okay.
I mean, it's similar to
not
the other
missing anything.
Look, it's similar to the other two. It's fun for like nostalgia purposes, right? Like if you can go back and like enjoy it that way, or if you can just turn your brain off and understand what you're watching, it's kind of nice. As a couple of dads over here, we got to understand at a certain point, you're just gonna watch TV because your kids like it, right?
That's right. And I think our parents were definitely doing that with a lot of Disney Channel content that we thought was hilarious and really good stuff when we were young ones. And you turn it on and it has not aged over the last 20 years. It has not aged well, I should say. So, yeah, lots of stuff going on in the world of sports. College football still several months away. You mentioned the Masters. There's a somewhat big baseball series down in my neck of the woods this weekend that several people are talking about. A little bit of a homecoming for certain former coach of Texas A&M. That'll be interesting.
Homecoming is the funniest way you could have put that.
Return to old stomping grounds, maybe. Maybe a more appropriate term, but your boy will be in the building on Friday night. I'm very excited to see the angst in person. So
let it rip.
I'll try to have a full report on that, Garrett.
If I had more days off, I'd have come and join you. But, only so many days off at this point in the year. The allergies have been bad enough. We've taken a couple more sick days than we expected to. So, yeah.
Well, all that being said, we've had a lot of stuff going on in the sports world. We had Michigan kind of bearing the lead from college sports perspective. Michigan winning the basketball title. Fun, another year of fun of March Madness. If you are into that, we've had some massive world news, and we'll stick with the positive world news at this point. But we sent some astronauts to the moon. Garrett, the Artemis 2. If you've been
does this count
as
world news? This is like interplanetary news at this
out
point,
of this
right?
world news. Absolutely, good point. We've sent some astronauts to the moon, and our silly segue here, we're calling this episode "To the Moon" because we are doing some stock reports. We've got some early numbers, some early over/under win totals for Power 4 teams that we're going to talk about tonight. We're taking some shots on some lower, less likely teams to win a conference championship, and maybe calling our shot to buy some stock early. Want to see that go to the moon, just like with GameStop and AMC a couple of years ago. We're going to have diamond hands on these teams. I won't hold us to that. We haven't done all of our research yet this year, but just first look what we like as we sit here in April. Really excited about this episode. We're going to go through each Power 4 conference. Garrett and I have each selected a win total we think will go higher, one we think will go lower, and a to the moon pick that we think it's one of the not favorites, not the top of the board for each of these Power Four conferences, but we'll make a case for that team having a awesome season. Want to make sure you're following along throughout the entire offseason. Make sure you're following the socials at 3Tech Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe on the YouTube channel as well if you haven't already. And make sure you follow our Substack as well. We've got some really fun articles, some written word pieces, if that's your jam, coming out all offseason long. And that is going to be our hub come summertime when the preview season kicks up. But Garrett, with all that out of the way, I will let you make the selection of where we're starting. Which Power Four conference would you like to pick our to the moon picks first?
We got to start in the obvious best college football conference that's out there, right? The one that's the undisputed greatest conference. I'm talking about the Big Ten, baby.
All right. Well, let's start in the Big Ten.
With it. Sorry about it, SEC fans.
Hey, they can't really say anything. Hey, did you know this was the first time in a decade that the SEC did not win either a football or men's basketball title?
Huh. Interesting.
That was official. I guess it was official when the last SEC team was eliminated. I can't remember if that was a Sweet 16 or Elite 8. But it became officially official Monday night when Michigan got the Big Ten double dip, and I guess triple dip if you count women's basketball, because UCLA won the women's title.
There you go. Yeah, they're dominating. They're just the best conference at all things. It's good to be in the Big Ten. It's maybe not so good to be, down here in the South.
Hey, it's everything's coming up Big Ten right now. That's really hard to deny. But let's start out with our positive picks. We're going to pick a couple teams that we think are going to beat their win total. Garrett, this felt like low-hanging fruit to me, if I'm being honest. I looked at this board. I looked up and down, tried to find the one that I was most confident in going over. And I think I got to go with the Indiana Hoosiers. And their win total right now as we sit in April is 10.5. And if you told somebody 5 or 6 years ago, I know we beat this story to death, but we're going to beat it to death one more time. If you told somebody 5 or 6 years ago that you think it would lock that Indiana would win 11 games, 11 football games, American football games, they'd look at you like you're crazy. But of course, we're living in a new reality. It's Curt Cignetti's world, and we're just living in it. But Garrett, you look at their schedule, and it's really, really setting up nicely for another run back to the college football playoff, another preferred seed in the college football playoff with maybe getting that bye. There's not a power conference out of conference game. Much has been made about that. It's North Texas, Howard, and Western Kentucky in the non-conference. But then you look at their conference opponents. Tough back-to-back stretch in October with Ohio State coming to Bloomington and then going to the Big House to face Michigan. But after that, you have a couple tough back-to-backs with the West Coast teams, but it's USC coming into traveling east. We know that USC does not typically perform well when they travel east.
They do not.
And then going out west to Washington, a team, spoiler alert, that I'll talk about here in just a second. That's going to be tough, a very tough road environment. But you're telling me that they need to go 3-1 in those games. But anybody that watched the Hoosiers on the field last year, I think would say, yeah, they got a pretty good chance of going at least 3-1 in those games.
Yeah. And I think, not to be super disrespectful, but it feels like this whole thing just comes down to that 2-week stretch in October, right? Like, as much as we want to maybe say like USC could be tricky, or like, Washington might give them a fight. It's always tough to go to Seattle. I don't think a lot of people think that Indiana realistically drops that game. Ohio State's obviously a huge, like, massive profile matchup. And then to chase that one with a trip to the Big House is obviously tricky, right? So I think that's where a lot of people are maybe putting the 2 losses. Or if it's not Michigan, it's, an accidental slip up somewhere else, right? I think that's probably where they put the 2 losses to make this line. I honestly, it's really hard to see how they drop both of those games, right? Like, I think we've come to kind of just understand that we can trust Indiana, right? Like, could they theoretically beat Ohio State, have a little bit of a hangover, drop a game at Michigan? Sure, that's possible. Do they drop both? Nah, I don't think so. I really just don't think they drop both those games. Even if they drop Ohio State, which again, it's possible. Ohio State's a very good football team. Do you follow that up with a second straight loss at Michigan? No, I think they come back focused and they beat the brakes off everybody on the way out. It's a disciplined Indiana team. They know what they want. It's probably even more talented this year than it was last year, dare I say. Yeah, it's going to be a fun team to continue to watch its ascension. And it's weird to say that, yeah, this is a continually ascending team, considering we're talking about our defending champs. But I do think that this is still a program in ascension. We're just going to have to see how high they can go at this point.
They're the most likely team to be the next dynasty at this point, right? Would you say that?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's not even close.
I think that's where I'm at with Indiana too. I think that just what they did, we can't say enough good things about it. They reloaded in the portal, and they have a seemingly bottomless war chest to keep those players coming in. And Curt Cignetti, you mentioned maybe they stubbed their toe somewhere. Curt Cignetti does not seem like a coach that's going to stub his toe against an overmatched opponent, at least at this point in his Indiana career. So yeah, I'm going to ride with the Hoosiers to go over 10.5. Who is your over pick, Garrett?
So I was looking up and down this Big Ten number, and I was kind of starting to think like, oh, that's a decent number. I saw Illinois at 7.5, and I thought that was a little interesting. I was like, yeah, I don't really know if I believe in it though. Maybe it's a 1-year thing. UCLA is tempting right at the 5.5. Okay, like they got a new coach, and then my eyes landed on Ohio State at 9.5, and I was just kind of like shocked. I was like, I'm sorry, we're talking about the Ohio State University. And I know that I am noted Ohio State hater on this podcast, but at a certain point, we have to come over here and just say, look, we're being a little disrespectful. I'm kind of pulling this up real quick. The last time that Ohio State failed to hit that mark, I guess technically would have been 2020 when they went 7-1 because they didn't play enough games. If you want to go back even further than that, I guess they went 6-7 back in 2011. Guys, they're gonna hit that mark. They just are. They're just gonna hit their mark. They win games. They win lots of football games. That you're asking for 10 wins from Ohio State. This seems like a given thing. Even go back further than that. You got to go back to 2004 when they went 8-4. Other than that, they're hitting 10 wins every year. Like, what are we talking about at Ohio State being? I don't even have to break down the team. I don't have to talk about how, well, they got great, receivers and they've got a great quarterback and they're obviously going to be really good on defense and da. I could go through the whole thing. I don't need to, though. All I have to say is it's the Ohio State University. It's the Buckeyes. They're going to win 10 games. They could have a down year. There could be other teams that are really good, right? We just talked about Indiana. They could be really, really good. You could convince me something about Oregon or something about Michigan or all those teams that you could start to talk about. And yeah, it's a little bit of a tough schedule, but you talk about, they're playing the Texas Longhorns, they're playing the Iowa Hawkeyes, they're playing Indiana, like we just said. They're not going to drop
all the way down that. Hold on, I'm going to stop you right there.
No, I'll go through it. Okay,
go all the way down.
I just mentioned some of them. Okay, they get Texas. You want to count Illinois? We're obviously not talking Ball State and Kent State. We're not talking those as losses. But
I want you to look from October 17th onward.
Yeah, Indiana, USC, Oregon, Northwestern, Nebraska, Michigan. They're winning 10 games next year. They're winning 10 games next year. Man. It's the Ohio State Buckeyes. They're winning 10 games.
I know.
Like you can't.
I know it's Ohio State.
You really can't do that for anybody in college football except for Nick Saban's Alabama, and like it's Ohio State. Like they just don't lose that many games. Like, and this is over multiple coaches, over lots of different assistant coaches, different offensive coordinators, different defensive. You're gonna tell me that Brian Hartline left, and I'm gonna boo-hoo, and we're gonna talk about how somehow the offense is going to drop off, even though Brian Hartline didn't make that offense what it was. He was a big factor in it. He recruited the receivers. It's great. Brian Hartline ain't the reason why Ohio State goes round. Ohio State goes round because Ohio State goes round. That's just how it works for them. So, look, as much as you may love or hate them, the Buckeyes seem like Thanos. They are inevitable. Okay, they're going to win 10 games. You could even tell me that they go 10-2, and I'd be like, yeah, probably. Like you. Do you think you're getting through that entire schedule unscathed? No, I don't think so. But like out of all those games, you're saying, so what? Texas, Iowa, Indiana, Oregon, Michigan, maybe USC. You're telling me they got to find a way to go 4-2 in those games to hit this? Like, yeah, that's fine. That's Ohio State.
Man, I look at that schedule and I think it might end up being one of the toughest of all time by the time it's said and done. And that doesn't mean that Ohio State can't go 10-2. Yeah. I think, and the betting lines would tell you that the juice is in favor of it going 10-2, right? It's
And-
minus 158 to bet the over
Well,
there.
and
but
something I wanted to say on that too. If this is as hard as the schedule is, and they do stomp this schedule, go 12-0, grab themselves a 1 seed, maybe go win themselves another championship, like we better start talking about like potential greatest all-time team type of situation. We can't have the Ohio State standard like melt that, right? Because we just kind of are used to Ohio State being good, like I was just saying. But if they pull something like that off and they just do what Ohio State has done year after year and just beat the crap out of everybody on their schedule and just find their way through, yeah, this has potential like greatest resume of all time type situations on it.
No doubt. You especially like you look at that back half of the schedule and you said it, but I'll just read it again. At Indiana, at USC, a bye week between those two games. Then you come home to play Oregon, Northwestern, Nebraska. I don't think that those are going to be on Ohio State's level, but traveling to Lincoln is never easy. And then the game, which they got that monkey off their back this past year, but it's always
a big deal.
A very difficult game. So yeah, I think I'm with you. And I would, if someone forced me to put money on it, Ohio State has the pedigree to where I'm going to trust them to go 10-2 against that schedule until proven otherwise. But man, 10-2 should be a top 5 seed in the college football playoff if they pull it off against that schedule.
And just looking at this schedule, I think this is going to be the hot take of the summer. I think everyone's going to talk about how Ohio State's going to go 8-4. They're not even going to make the play. Like, it's going to be every hot take artist that's going to want to get out there and just, shout that Ohio State's not going to be able to do it this year. And they're going to break down how somehow there's some advanced stat that proves that they're not very good. I'm just going to let you know right now, Trey, I'm going to hot take disapprove every single hot take artist that does that over the summer, because it's going to be real popular in this. And I might even pick them eventually. Like when you really put my feet to the fire, I might even eventually pick them at 10-2 or, bordering on a 9-3 after I've done everything. I get it. But you can come back and hold my feet to this. They're going to go 10-2. Like, that's just what they do. They just find a way to win 10 games. Maybe that's not technically good enough for the playoffs. If, there's a bunch of 11-1s this year or something like that, I couldn't possibly make that case at all. I think that, even if my team's involved, I probably still have to say, I think you give Ohio State this one because it's a remarkable schedule they're going up against, and they will have multiple signature wins by the time all this is done.
Well, let's go to the negative side on the Big Ten. Let's talk about a couple teams we are putting the under on right now. And I'm going to go to the other side of that big game rivalry. I'm going to go with the Michigan Wolverines. And for as confident as you are in the Buckeyes, Garrett, I am probably equally concerned with Michigan going into this season. My maybe hot take, I've seen the Wolverines usually up around the top 15 in the way too early top 25s at this point of the year. I'm really concerned about Michigan on the field this fall. You have so much turmoil. I know you're bringing in Kyle Whittingham, who is like the epitome of stability. Perfect coach to bring into this situation, right? But you look at the turnover on the roster. Yes, they were able to keep Bryce Underwood. Yes, they were able to keep some important pieces on the defense. And yes, they were able to bring in some nice pieces from Kyle Whittingham's former team, the Utah Utes. But I look at all the turmoil and just messiness of that situation. And I combine that with the fact that I'm not 100% sure Bryce Underwood is going to be the guy to lead Michigan all the way back to the college football playoff, at least at this point in his career. I know you can make a massive jump from freshman year to sophomore year. I know that is more than possible. We've seen that a ton of talented quarterbacks like Bryce Underwood make that jump from freshman to sophomore year. But it's also April, and I haven't seen it yet. So as of right now, the line's 8.5. I'm going to say Michigan goes under that 8.5. You look at their schedule, they host Oklahoma, a team that's fresh off a college football playoff appearance in week 2. That's going to be really difficult. They also draw Iowa, Penn State, Indiana. All those games are at home, but the last couple of years since the championship, it hasn't exactly been as intimidating to play at the Big House as it was when Harbaugh had it running. Then at the end of the year, you go to Oregon, you host a possibly tricky UCLA team that you'll talk about here in a second, and then go to the shoe at Ohio State. That's a lot of losable games. And I think right now, if you force me to bet, I'm going to pick Michigan to go 8-4 or worse in 2026.
Yeah, and I know that a few weeks back we made the case for, kind of Michigan/Penn State as kind of a, we got these new head coaches in new situations. We're trying to make the case for them, but I think it's valid to voice some concerns over those teams, and which does bring me to my under. I'm going under on Penn State, right? I think that 9.5 is the number for them. You're asking Penn State to get to 10 wins year one under Matt Campbell. I just don't really believe in that. The schedule is soft for Penn State. That's the only thing that they really have going for them. It's you open up with Marshall at Temple and then Buffalo. You get Wisconsin, Northwestern, and then it starts to get a little trickier. You got USC in the middle of the season at Michigan, before you finish with Purdue at Washington, Minnesota, Rutgers, and at Maryland. I think there's a lot of winnable games on that schedule, but it won't be because I think Penn State's a very good team. I think it's because they're just going to have a lot of winnable games on that schedule. But I think that Penn State this year is going to be that team that a lot of either new coaches or maybe coaches on the hot seat, the teams that are fighting for their bowl lives. I think that's that one that they can circle as a get up game and kind of find them sleeping a couple times. So, is that going to be, Rutgers towards the end of the year? Is it going to be, Minnesota towards the end of the year? Is it going to be Washington fighting for a bit of a statement? Maybe Wisconsin early is trying to make a little bit of a statement and try to, save some stuff. I don't know what the situation is going to be, but I think that's going to be a big game for a lot of teams just because of what the helmet means and what it means when you're playing Penn State, especially in that conference. I think that's going to be enough of a game to get some people up and excited for. And I think that's going to ultimately be a bad thing for Penn State because I don't think they're going to be able to maintain that focus in year one. I don't really believe in the roster that much right now. Don't really believe in the head coach that much right now. Again, maybe towards the end of the summer, you can convince me out of this one. I think 9-3 feels like a little bit of an upper end for where they'll be, and that misses it. So I'm going under on Penn State.
I think Penn State is maybe the team I'm most fascinated in maybe the entire country going into preview season this year. You can make the argument, I think, either way and make a really good argument. You just made the argument against them being an elite team. I think that all of those points you say are fair. I would add to it that Matt Campbell has never had this amount of scrutiny and spotlight on what he's doing, right? Like this is you've never been the man that 100,000 plus screaming passionate fans in white have latched their hopes to, right? And that's a lot of pressure, a lot more pressure than Ames. I know they love their football in Ames, but 100,000 people bearing down on every decision you make when they just fired an extremely successful coach is going to be a really interesting situation to drop him in. I will say the pros there are the continuity, right? It's basically the Penn State Cyclones. So they know how to play together. And you mentioned it off the top, the schedule is really easy. I think that if they hit this over, it will probably be a product of that schedule more than anything else. But I don't hate the pick. I think it's perfectly reasonable to be tepid on Penn State as they enter the Matt Campbell era. Now let's have some fun. Let's pick our to the moon picks for the Big Ten. Again, these are teams that are a little bit lower in the conference standings. I gave us a list for the Big Ten. I started at USC at plus 1,500. I wouldn't let us take anybody ahead of that in the odds. And I went all the way down to Nebraska at plus 1,500. And my disclaimer in our doc was you can pick somebody below that, but just go below that at your own peril. Garrett, we'll start with you. Who is your to the moon team?
Trey, I've got a former James Madison head coach who's sitting over here, and he's coaching in the Big Ten, looking to make a name for himself.
Nobody's ever done that before.
It seems like uncharted territory, except for the fact that it's extremely recently charted territory. I got UCLA to the moon, man. I think they're going to be fun. I think there's a lot of positives on this for them. I think that they have the potential to be a really, fun. Again, I'm not going to say great team, but I'll say fun team. If you want a team to just kind of watch some rises, I think this is the one. They got a really soft middle of the schedule. Obviously, opens, they go to Cal, which could be tricky. They got San Diego State. They got Purdue. They got Maryland. So, you probably end up 3-1, 2-2, somewhere in there. You play Oregon. That's probably not going to go your way. But you get Wisconsin, Michigan State, Nevada, all at home. You go to Minnesota before coming back home for Illinois before you have to close out with Michigan and USC. That could be really fun. Like there could be a lot of wins stacking up. You could find some real momentum in there before a trip to the big house. I'm not saying they're going to win, all of those games. I'm not going to say that they're going to go win all the games on their schedule. I'm not saying they're going 10-2, but this could be a really fun team that, makes it back to a bowl game, starts to kind of strive for, I don't know, maybe 8 wins. Like, could they get to 8 wins? I think it's possible.
UCLA is plus 1,500 to win the Big Ten, so that would be a massive payout.
That's 1,500?
Or it's 15,000. Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I was like, did I get them that good? Okay.
I was told thered be no math, but it's plus 15,000. So even better.
Carry the zero.
Payoff.
Just, yeah.
Well, I'm going to go to a team that you've heard me talk a lot about over the past 365 days. Garrett, Mitch and I typically have this problem on this show of being a year too early on a team. And I'm going to just bet on that with my To the Moon team. I'm going with the Washington Huskies. You're probably rolling your eyes that I am enamored with the Washington Huskies once again. But here we are. And Washington at plus 3,000. I did check the zeros that time. It is plus 3,000, not 30,000.
Yeah.
They're just another team that, if I'm going to bet on a specific position, I'm going to bet on the quarterback and them getting Damon Williams. I know there's that whole situation when the transfer portal opened with a lot of tampering and a lot of unsure deals, whatever. That's all in the past, baby. Damon Williams will be suiting up for the Washington Huskies this year, and he'll once again want to be one of the better quarterbacks in the entire Big Ten. So if you tell me I've got him on my side, I know they lost a lot of skill position help. They lost Damon Williams, or Denzel Boston, the wide receiver. Lost a lot of that running back room. They brought in some nice transfers as well. So I'm going to trust Jedd Fisch year 3 to break through and just be a little bit more consistent than last year. Consistency was the problem, especially when they left the Pacific Northwest. Hopefully we can change that this year and let Washington push for a Big Ten championship. They were so close to, I think, truly contending last year. Maybe we'll get it this year, and Mitch and I will just be a year too early.
Yeah, I personally like it. I think it's fun. It does seem to be the case, though, that y'all just seem a little bit early on some of these teams. So, yeah, maybe it is Washington. I think that's what you got to do. You got to start listening to your gut and then put it in the next year's show doc, right?
That's right.
I really believe in this team. I'll stick them in there next year.
If I have a good reason player-wise and those players are still on the team the following year, they're just a year older, year wiser, and we're going to roll with it again.
Apologies to the Indiana Hoosiers for the confidence you just expressed, right? It turns out it's going to be a little bit of a rough year for you guys.
Well, they've already proven it. So this is only teams that are making the jump. They have already proven that they're a juggernaut. So, yeah, Washington, congratulations. You're going to be right back in the thick of things. Garrett, let's go to the SEC. Shall we? I'm going to start with my over pick in the SEC. If you've been listening this offseason, you probably know the direction that I'm going to take with this one. It's my Kentucky Wildcats. They are quickly becoming a darling team for me. 4.5 on the over-under. And they have a brutal schedule. I've read it off on this podcast before. I'll spare you guys the line-by-line reading of the schedule for Kentucky this year, but Will Stein coming down from Oregon. I've said it once, I've said it a million times. He's got a nice portal class that he's put together. I think the offensive talent at Kentucky is going to be better than we've seen there in a long, long time, and it's going to be a modern offense, finally. I know it was fun, the days of Benny Snell and, the wide receivers running the Wildcat out of the quarterback position. Those were fun. They were fun gimmicks, and they led to some wins at the height of the Stoops era. But a modern offense with someone that actually knows what they're doing, sign me the heck up in Lexington. So I think they're going to make a nice surprise this year. I think they're going to make a bowl game. Their line's sitting there at 4.5. I'll even go all the way up to them winning 6 games and making a bowl. Will Stein year 1.
I think that's a great pick. We're going to talk real nice about Kentucky probably for the rest of the offseason. My over team is sitting there with the line at 7.5, and they made the playoff last year. Guys, what's up with the Oklahoma Sooners getting the disrespect? I mean, what is that all about? Yes, it's a tricky schedule. I give you that. They go to Michigan. They go to Georgia. Obviously, they got Texas in the middle of the schedule. They got to play Ole Miss and A&M, both of those games at home, so could be good for them. But there's a lot of really winnable games in there. I just read you 4 games that are like probably tough for them, and that's still over what that number is at 7.5. If you're telling me I'm supposed to believe in like, Missouri, Florida, South Carolina, Mississippi State, yes, Kentucky's in there. Again, we just talked about them, but to the level that they can start knocking off teams that just made the playoff and like didn't lose their quarterback. And like, I think a lot of us were very excited about, kind of the quarterback situation in Oklahoma. Didn't really pan out, maybe a lingering injury. But that situation, it should be fine. Trey, you were just talking about a team that we might have been a little early on. I'll tell you a player we might have been a little early on was that Oklahoma quarterback, right? I think that we're possibly early on, watching Oklahoma rise back up to being another really good offense. I just kind of believe in what they've got built there. They've been consistent. They had a tough year 1 in the SEC, bounced back real nice, made the playoff. I think they got a chance to make a run at a playoff again. It's going to be a lot tougher this year, but all I have to do is say that, maybe Michigan's not quite as good as we think they are. Maybe Ole Miss isn't quite as good as they think they are without the head coach. Maybe A&M was a bit of a flash in the pan. They're not quite as good as we think they are. And we're already back up at 10 or 11 wins. Like we're starting to talk about that again. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I think that this is a really good number, and I think that 7.5 is an easy smash the over.
That was the one I was most surprised at when I was putting this list together. Oklahoma at 7.5, and what I was even more surprised at was the under is the betting favorite at -122. So you're getting juice to pick the over at 7.5. That one, Ole Miss is also there at 7.5 in the SEC. I forgot to go down the list in the Big Ten to ask if any other ones stood out. But yeah, Oklahoma and Ole Miss were 2 of the most surprising ones for me, for a team that just made the college football playoff, gave Alabama all they could handle, and returns their quarterback. That was really, really surprising to me. I think it shows that I think the general public definitely views the 2025 Sooners as luck merchants. They won a lot of close games. They won with playing, offense with one hand tied behind their back for most of the season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that transfers into 2026.
And like, I know that they probably are never going to say it, but do you really believe that Mateer was fully healthy? Like we've seen what he can do. I guarantee you that hand was bothering him probably the entire year. And that was why all of that happened. So, give him an off season, let him get healthy, let him get a little bit of rhythm, a little bit more, comfortable with what he's doing there in Norman. I think we're going to be just fine.
Highest SEC team is at 9.5. That's Texas and Georgia. I can't remember. I know that's probably a product of adding a 9th conference game, but just another interesting nugget there.
Well, Texas has Ohio State too, so Texas
also has Ohio State. I can't remember. I don't think Georgia has a big non-conference game. They play Georgia Tech, of course, but not like
Georgia Tech. Obviously, they've got Marshall and Austin Peay.
Well, that should be 2 wins on their quest for 9.5 over 9.5.
Sorry, that was last year. They've got Tennessee State and Western Kentucky. What? Like
should also be 2 wins. Yeah, should also be 2 wins. So
sorry, fill in the blank with the teams they should beat the crap out of. My bad.
Well, let's go to our under picks. I'm going to go with another team that's sitting at 7.5. They have a little bit of juice on the over. -118 is the favorite there. I'm going to go with Tennessee to go under 7.5 wins. This is really just a vibes pick for me. You look, and Joey Aguilar lost his appeal, obviously, to come back and be the starting quarterback once again for the Volunteers. This is a team that ever since that massive blowout up in Columbus, when they were trying to take over the shoe, all their fans bought those really expensive tickets to watch their team just never be competitive. It's really been a program that's struggled to find their footing, right? And it's going to be an interesting quarterback battle. George McIntyre, kind of the redshirt freshman, is going to be, I think, slotted into there. They also brought in Ryan Staub, I should say, as a transfer. So interesting quarterback battle there, but just not a lot that's really putting the fear of God into, right? Deshaun Bishop should be a nice piece at the running back position. but I am not really looking at Tennessee and saying, yeah, that's a team that really scares me. The defense was a disaster last year. They bring in Jim Knowles to try to fix that. But it's an entirely new defense pretty much with a ton of transfers. That's the good news. The bad news is it takes Jim Knowles' system a little bit of time to gel. We saw that Penn State struggled with it last year in year one. Even Ohio State and Oklahoma State, those two schools at his previous stops were really difficult to make that work right away. So I think there's just going to be some growing pains still on the defensive side of the ball as they try to play that hyper aggressive style of ball that Knowles wants to play. I think that's going to lead to a lot of struggles on the field, and it could lead to a 7-5 season. So I'm going to call Tennessee under.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that's a really good pick for that. And it's hard for me to look at a lot of these SEC lines and pick one that I really feel good about going under on. But upon further review, South Carolina at 6.5 feels like a really easy one to hit the under on. Mostly because I just don't know that the coach survives the year. Like, I just don't think that if you had to ask me, like, does he get fired? Does Shane Beamer get fired, before the end of the season? I think probably, right? I don't think that he can survive. And I think it's a lot because of what we saw this last season with as many teams turned over head coaches as did. I think that you'll probably see that happen at least possibly again. And I kind of mentioned this as a thing a couple episodes ago, but with some of these newer coaches, I'm looking at their schedule. They got Kentucky and Florida in that first half of the schedule. Both of those teams bringing in new coaches with a lot to prove. If you're not on your game, and obviously they got a trip to Alabama at the beginning of the schedule as well. If you're not on your game, they might jump up and get you with a little bit of excitement. And now you're starting to look around in the building going into a bye week and you're saying, hey, nothing's going right. Then you got to come out of the bye week, play Tennessee, at Oklahoma, Texas A&M, at Arkansas, Georgia, and at Clemson to finish the season. There's a bunch of teams that are either like perennial playoffs or like probable playoff teams for this. Like, there's a lot of really good teams on the back half of that schedule where I think you could really see things kind of implode and fall apart if the culture in the locker room isn't very good. And personally, I don't believe that the culture in the locker room is very good at South Carolina. So I think, I think probably this is one of those that 6.5 could be dangerous. They might be able to scrape out 6 and make a bowl game, but I feel like if they're on pace to scrape out 6 and make a bowl game, they'll probably fire their coach, lick their wounds, and head to the offseason.
Yeah, he's on my hot seat this year, so I can't disagree with you there. And yeah, I know that we're just weeks away from the hype train starting up for the Gamecocks, and it's going to come because it always does.
There will be Twitter videos, and he will be wearing sunglasses with flashlights and things.
And he'll walk off the field like Joe Namath at halftime if they have a big lead, and they'll probably blow it again, just like he did in College Station last fall.
Surely we could never blow a 28-point lead, and then it's the Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Shane Beamer blows a 28-point lead.
That's iconic at this point.
Yep.
Our To the Moon picks for the SEC. I went all the way. Our list of eligible teams to pick here was Ole Miss at plus 1,000 all the way down to Vandy at plus 8,000 at your own risk. After that, of course, I'm going to go with the Florida Gators. Garrett at plus 2,000. I want to buy some stock in the new coaching staff led by John Sumrall. I want to buy some stock in Aaron Philo coming over from Georgia Tech, a guy that got a lot of starting experience when Haynes King was banged up. He was more the throwing option when Haynes King was operating with one shoulder for portions of his career. You also held on to Jaden Ball amid a ton of pressure to get him in the transfer portal. Dallas Wilson as well is back after an awesome freshman campaign. When he was healthy, he was one of the best receivers in the SEC last year. Oh, and you're going to back up Jaden Ball with Evan Pryor from Cincinnati last year, who literally carried the Bearcats at times last season. He was like the key to unlocking that offense at times when Cincinnati was rolling last year. This is going to be one of the most fun offenses in the SEC. I think John Sumrall, combined with a quarterback that I think is going to take care of the football much better than DJ Lagway did his first 2 years in college, I think the offense is going to be incredible. Now, Florida's always going to have the athletes on defense. They struggled with busts at times last year, especially against the deep ball, right? But hey, if they can put up a ton of points this year and just take care of the football and offense, they're going to have a potential to be right in the thick of this SEC title race at the end of the year, especially the way their schedule sets up. They do play Georgia, of course. That game's a little interesting this year because it's in Atlanta instead of Jacksonville while they renovate the Jaguar Stadium. But all in all, I'm really excited about Florida Gator football for the first time in quite some time.
Yeah, the official name of that game, of course, being the Invesco QQQ Atlanta Gridiron Classic. So, we got to honor the game.
I'm honestly kind of glad they have a stupid name for it when it's in Atlanta, because it wouldn't be outdoors, right? So we couldn't call it the world's largest outdoor cocktail party because it's indoors.
It's the world's largest indoor cocktail party.
But it's kind of nice that they're not just, getting clout off of that.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% with you there. Yeah, Florida's one of those teams I'm really glad to not see on my team's schedule this year. It feels like one of those that, like, you fall asleep at the wheel, you come out a little bit lazy at 11 o'clock, and they're up 14-0 in the first quarter. Very happy to not see them on the schedule. Please go ruin some of my rivals' years. That would be great. No, my to the moon here. I'm glad that you gave me the Ole Miss Rebels because I want to take them. And to me, I don't think that there's going to be the drop off everyone else thinks that there is. I might be totally wrong on this. Maybe egg on my face when they're looking at 8-4 at the end of the year. Whatever. I just think that Ole Miss is going to be still a pretty dang good football team. I think that there's a lot still going well for them. I think that the way that they all came together is really, really good. And the thing that we saw is that their coach did lead them. Pete Golding led them through a playoff run and was very close. I mean, like a slightly better pass at the end of the game away from making it to the national championship game and competing. So I don't know. Maybe they're not going to be, top team. Maybe they don't even make the playoff, but I still want my stock in Ole Miss because I love where the program is going. I love what they have right now. And I think if you can just proof of concept 1 year and give it a pretty decent year, I think you don't see that big of a drop off for Ole Miss.
I like it. If you've listened to the show that I'm on the other side of that, that's okay. But it would not, especially when you're going to have the best quarterback in the SEC, arguably, in Trinidad Chambliss. That's a great starting point. And
that's a good place to start.
Yeah. And whatever the judges decide, ultimately, that's going to be decided after he finishes his whatever year of eligibility this is. So
go ahead. Tell me it didn't count.
We'll hang the banner anyways.
We can go stick his banner in the same closet as Reggie Bush's Heisman.
Let's go to the Big 12, Garrett. I'll let you start with your over pick here. I think the two most obvious over picks, for me at least, you took one of them and I ended up taking the other one. So I'll let you start with one of them.
Yeah, I'll take the Oklahoma State Mean Orange, or whatever we're going to call them now. I don't know how we're supposed to refer to them now that it's basically the Mean Green have traveled their way up. Oklahoma State, I think, is going to be massively improved from last year. What was their number this year? It was
5.5.
5.5. Yeah, they're
and the over is minus 158. So that obviously the public agrees that's way too low.
And I think it's a good take because again, it's a good coach in Eric Morris. You're bringing your quarterback with you. You're bringing your running back with you. That duo was insane at UNT. And I still don't really believe in the Big 12 as a conference. I don't think that they're such a strong conference. If he made this jump and he was at Oklahoma State and everything is the exact same, but they're playing, in the SEC or the Big 10, I don't think you see the same level of success that they're going to have in year one. But because they're playing in the Big 12, because I think they're going to be a much better football team than a lot of the teams around them, with a lot more excitement and great fan support. Like the fans really show up to support them, especially when they're good. And even when they're not good, they just show up and take their shirts off. I really like what this Oklahoma State team is doing, and I really think they're going to be really good next year.
I love the pick. 5.5 feels criminal to Eric Morris, the coaching jobs that he's done. Maybe you can look this up, Garrett. Has he ever won less than 6 games as a head coach? I feel like he made a bowl.
I have to see.
Unless I'm remembering a down first year at North Texas. I don't remember him
do a
winning
little bit of the looking on that one, but yeah, it feels like he's always been really good. And then again, combine it with the fact that you're not losing a lot out of your system. I joke that they're like the Mean Orange now because they literally are bringing back that much in terms of what they had at UNT last year. to now. So I just, it looks like I'm looking here. First couple years, it was 5-7, 6-7, and then 11-2. So definitely a jump there.
Okay. Yeah.
But I mean,
But
like,
I knew he was like bowl. I think maybe they made a bowl that year as a
and the rosters
got
had been
invited.
pretty bad.
Right.
Like, and the hard thing too is a lot of times at that level, you are just kind of waiting on a quarterback who can do it all. So, like, again, maybe like Oklahoma State, they jump up and Mestemaker's not all that good when he gets up there at the Big 12 level. Sure, maybe. I don't know that the Big 12 is necessarily known for playing elite defense, so maybe pump the brakes on that one. But yeah, I think that this is really doable for them. I think this will be a really, I think it'll be a manageable year for a lot of the folks there in Stillwater.
Oklahoma State might have this locked up by the end of October. I'm going to read their opening schedule. It's at Tulsa, which you never want to play at a G5 team, but always tricky.
And it's a close, and there's a lot of heated, and I think they won that game last year. So
yeah, and so that's going to be interesting. Oregon coming to town, that's probably not going to be a win, but then you get Murray State at West Virginia, UCF at home, at Houston, another difficult game, but then Colorado at home and Iowa State, a team that was just decimated by the portal and has a brand new head coach. I think that you could find you could see them at 6-2 after Halloween, and that would be really, really great for
and
year
then
one.
Get a little bit of momentum with you, get a little bit of belief there, right? You get things rolling. I mean, Texas Tech comes to town. Texas Tech's a very good football team, but Texas Tech coming to Stillwater, that could be a real passionate type of game where there's just a lot of fans going crazy. You get to host Kansas to end the season, so like there's some games that can definitely be won there in the back end too. So it's, I think it'll be a fun year for them. I think they get back to a bowl game for sure. So give me the over for them.
I'm going with Houston as my team to hit their over. Their line is 7.5, and another team that the betting odds are way in favor of the over. So I'm not really going out on a huge limb here if you just look at the odds, but the schedule's a little tougher than it was last year. Last year, obviously, getting to 10 wins was huge, counting the bowl game. I think they're going to be right there contending for the Big 12 yet again with all the talent that they're bringing back. Host Oregon State Southern and go to Georgia Southern. Very interesting non-conference road trip. But those should be 3 wins. In conference play, they do play at Texas Tech. That's going to be an uphill battle, to say the least. They go to host Oklahoma State, like we said a little bit ago, and go to Manhattan and to Salt Lake City. But other than that, the conference schedule is very manageable. So if you can just find a way to split those 2 road games where there's a brand new head coach, 2 very difficult environments to play in at Bill Snyder Family Stadium and Rice-Eccles Stadium. But if you can find a way to split those with your veteran-laden team and veteran coaching staff against 2 first-time head coaches on the road, I think you're going to see Houston and Arlington. I think that it will be a rematch with Texas Tech most likely. And I'm really excited to see what the Cougars can do to follow up that awesome season. Speaking of the Red Raiders, Garrett, they are one of 2 teams in the entire country that you have to bet if they go undefeated or not. They and Notre Dame are over under at 11.5. And if you look at both of their schedules, you will see why the betting odds. They're going to be 2 really great teams on the field, but their schedules not challenging.
Yeah, not going to be much of a challenge for either of them.
Well, take us to your under.
Yeah, my under is going to be Baylor on this one. Again, kind of betting against a team who I don't think he'll have a head coach partway through the season. I don't know if they do, because honestly, they're probably way overdue for firing Aranda anyways. So maybe they're just going to stay with him way longer than they should. I made this joke last time, but wouldn't be the first time they stayed with the head coach much farther into his life as a head coach than he probably should have. Maybe for different reasons, obviously. But no, I don't think that playing Auburn in Atlanta is a very nice proposition for Baylor to start the year. Especially, all the excitement, new head coach, all the stuff going on with Auburn. You get Prairie View and Louisiana Tech. Okay. You have Colorado. That's probably winnable. But on the schedule at Arizona State, TCU, you got to play, at BYU. You get to host the Butt Bowl, but that's still Texas Tech. You play Houston, and I don't believe in Baylor. I just don't believe in what they're doing this year. I know that there's going to be a lot of excitement. You bring in the new quarterback. He's the Texas kid. You got a little bit of a legacy situation with Lagway, but I didn't really think that he did that much to make a case for himself when he was at Florida. Like, he's got loads of talent, so it's in there. It's possible. But man, haven't we said that about Baylor quarterbacks before, and about how talented they should be, and about how, well, they figure out a couple of things and maybe, and we said that about DeQuan Finn. We said that about Sawyer. Like, we've said that about a lot of quarterbacks, and it just hasn't panned out. I don't think they're going to have a very good roster. They might end up scraping the bottom of the barrel this year. There's a lot of teams that you could say, well, those are going to be bad teams in the Big 12, so they might be able to beat them. I think there's a lot of the bad teams in the Big 12. They're going to be looking at Baylor like, all right, well, there's a chance to get a win, right? I think it's going to kind of go both ways. So, yeah, I just don't think I can go with Baylor on this one. And the number two, what they have him at was, 6.5? Making a bowl game feels like a stretch for the Baylor Bears this year.
Yeah, I was shocked that it was 6.5. That you have to decide if they're going to not just make a bowl game, but comfortably make a bowl game with 7 wins.
Like make it to 7 and 5. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm right there with you on taking the under there with the Baylor Bears. I'm going to go with Utah for my under pick here. I know that there's a lot of continuity, and that's going to help a new first-time coach, right? Morgan Scaley, I know, has been the head coach in waiting for so long, and they finally make the move. It seems like Kyle Whittingham, obviously he took another job, so he was not ready for them to make that move. He was not done yet, but Morgan Scaley will have to come in and also have a new offensive coordinator. So it's going to be a lot of transition. Yes, they have Devin Dampier to still build the offense around. If they can build the entire ship out of his legs, great. I think that Utah could be off and running, for lack of a better term again. But I'm a little concerned about the sustainability of that 2 years in a row and just the general new coach vibes. First-time head coach, little uneasy about that. So for me to have to take them, what was their line? It was 8.5. So I would have to take a first-time ever head coach to go 9-3 in the Big 12. Just too many landmines, man. 8-4 would be a solid season for year one, and I don't think there'd be anything to hold their heads about with that.
Yeah, and the hard thing too is there's a lot of confidence coming out of Utah right now, and they love the situation they're in. This feels a little bit like rose-colored glasses right now. And look, I've got nothing but love for Utah. If you've been a fan of the show for any amount of time, you know that I am not a Utah hater. It feels a little bit like rose-colored glasses. I would expect at least a couple bumps in the road before we kind of get this thing on the tracks with your new head coach.
Let's go with our to the moon picks. Garrett, I'll share mine first here. I'm going with Arizona, and it's another situation. I said it in the Big Ten when I was betting on Washington. Noah Fifita is still an Arizona Wildcat, and he has turned through several receivers. Obviously, Teteroa McMillan was the big name a couple years ago. They replaced him last year. They bring in a whole new crop of receivers in the transfer portal to help Noah Fifita out. I think this could be an awesome chance for him to go out swinging. He has a lot of talent around him. Brent Brennan, I was very critical of the hire, and then he found a way to get Arizona to a 9-3 regular season and still in contention for the Big 12 title on the last week of the season last year. So I'm going with Arizona. I'll swing my shot. I'll take a flyer bet to try to go to the moon on the back of what should be one of the better quarterbacks in the entire Big 12.
I like the pick. I'm a little bit nervous to make my pick because, Trey, I want to take one of your ex-darlings, so I know it was a little bit of a messy breakup.
Don't do it.
I know it was a messy breakup, Trey. I know.
I'm still calling her. I call her like every other weekend, unfortunately.
Look, I know she was talking about it. I'm taking Kansas State to the moon here. Look, I might be the one to fall on the landmine this year with Kansas State. I think they probably have a really good year. Now, I will throw a little bit of a caveat out here. I think Kansas State will inexplicably lose a game because of a knuckleheaded play call at a critical moment. I think it's going to happen. However, Colin Klein is a very good offensive mind and will win you more games than he probably loses you. It's just hard to see that, like, maybe they're playing at Colorado, right? They have that Colorado at Halloween, maybe the moon's, full moon or something like that. And we got a weird situation going on in Boulder, and, you're down on the 1 yard line, and it's obvious you should just run the football. You've got 400 yards rushing on the night. He's like, nah, screen time, baby. Let's go. And it's just going to be a little Colin Klein special on the goal line. But again, a little bit of the teasing aside for some of the interesting decisions made in College Station, he's still a very good offensive mind. He's obviously, darling of their university, right? The prodigal son has returned home. I think he's going to have him playing pretty freaking good football this year. So, give me to the moon on Kansas State. Schedule's manageable. There's some tough games on the schedule, but it's a manageable schedule. They don't catch Texas Tech, which is obviously really nice. They got Arizona State on the schedule. They got Houston on the schedule. They got Oklahoma State on the schedule. That's kind of where it stops being tricky for me. They got Washington State and Tulane in the out of conference, but I think those are both pretty winnable games. Think it could be a good year for Kansas State.
Man, that Kansas State Tulane rivalry is just heating up over the last few years.
It really is.
They don't play in Ireland this year, so they've got that going for them. They don't have a service academy on the schedule, so things are looking up for my dear old Wildcats. Good. I'll probably be right there with you. I just love that you're an Avery Johnson believer. Welcome to the.
I didn't say that. Okay, I didn't say
general suffering.
Look, if we know one thing, Colin Klein can get the most out of a running style quarterback who at times struggles to throw a football accurately.
Yeah.
We know that this is true.
11-1 and then not use his legs on the goal line in a massive situation. So
it's not the right time for
looking forward to that. Looking forward to that. Some interesting numbers around the Big 12 before we move on to the ACC. Iowa State at 5.5. Very interesting with their new coach situation as well. I didn't want to touch Kansas or Arizona State with a 10-foot pole because they are going to play in London, not in week 0, but in the middle of the season. I think that is stupid. I'll just say it. I think it's September 17th, and it's the week after Arizona State plays in College Station. They go straight from College Station to London, I guess. Good luck finding a direct flight out of Easterwood, fellas. But I think that makes them just complete wild cards. Yeah. How do you handle that transition over to London and then all the way back to your respective time zones?
They get a bye week.
Okay. So
that's still a lot. No, you're totally right. Having to go. And the crazy thing is, I think I'd almost rather have a bye week followed by the game in London followed by a home game, as opposed to having to go on the road, then immediately turn it around and go to London. That's crazy.
Yeah. I can't remember Kansas's schedule, but Arizona State, how long are they going to be away from their own beds?
I mean, seriously. Yeah, that's crazy. Kansas, they get Missouri the week before. So not exactly an easy one to lead into that game.
No, yeah, and
they got some late nights for that coaching staff, man. We might need to check in on some union laws or labor things. They might be breaking some labor laws.
There's going to be some interns worried about passports and just all kinds of crazy things when Arizona State and Kansas have massive out of conference games the week before. So I'm out on just any prognostication on either of those teams. BYU struck me as very interesting, a little low at 8.5. I think that's an interesting number, especially since the under is the line favorite there. Let's go over to the ACC. Let's start with our positives here. Our overs in the ACC. Call me a homer, call me whatever you want, Garrett, but I'm going with the SMU Mustangs. It's just kind of set your watch to SMU winning at least 8 games at this point under Rhett Lashley, and the line's right there at 8.5. So I'm going to push him. I'm going to take him to get them over the hump to 9 wins. Yet again, Kevin Jennings is still slinging the rock around and using his legs. So as long as he's there, I think they've got a really good chance.
Yeah, man. I'm getting on the Cal roller coaster this year. We got Cal at 6.5.
Yes, you are.
I think that this is the year for that. Obviously, you're bringing down the other of the Oregon coaches, right? We talked about both of their coordinators leaving. You get the defensive guy, which is nice because if you can play any defense in the ACC, you're on your way. I think that's probably a good thing. They start with UCLA. I think this is going to be a roller coaster of a season for Cal, by the way. You start with UCLA. That's a little bit maybe a trickier game. Again, because of the new coach situation and the fact that both of them are going to be looking at brand new schemes with brand new teams. So that's going to be fun. You go to Syracuse, you come home for Wagner, you got to play Clemson. That's going to be a tricky one. And then just randomly, you get a random Saturday at UNLV where you get to go play in Vegas. That's pretty sick. You get to come home for Virginia Tech and Wake Forest. That should be pretty nice. You do have to go to SMU. You do have to go to NC State. But then you get to kind of finish Virginia, Stanford, Pitt. I'm okay with this. I think that we can find 7 wins. And I'm not exactly sure which ones they are. Do they find, would you call Pitt an upset because Pitt looked pretty good at the end of the year? I might call Pitt an upset, but they got to come all the way across to Berkeley, right? Do you think that maybe Virginia Tech coming across the country for Berkeley? I don't know. Wake Forest all the way across the country. There's some teams that I think probably end up losing games in Berkeley this year that maybe feel a little bit dumb for doing so. But I'm getting on the Cal roller coaster, and I'm just gonna make sure that lap bar goes down, visual scan, all clear, and we're gonna go hands in the air and just ride the roller coaster, baby. We're ready for the Cal Golden Bears. We're just gonna do it.
I love the pick. If you've listened this offseason, I'm high on Cal as well. JKS, keeping him out of the portal and at home in Berkeley was huge. And Tosh Lupoi did work in the portal, just like his counterpart Will Stein did over at Kentucky. And you're right. All those teams traveling all the way across the country, that's just a nice built-in advantage for Cal. Yes, Cal has to do it in reverse, so that's difficult. But they might be able to sneak a couple out that they wouldn't otherwise just because of the time changes. Garrett, you've got a very interesting underpick, so I'm going to throw it here to you to maybe piss off a very vocal section of the internet here.
It would not be my first time. I'm staying under for Miami. I'm sorry. I don't need to justify this one because your number's 10.5 and you didn't hit that last regular season either.
That's true.
So if you're telling me that you've improved so much that you can be the national champion, maybe I'll pick you to go 11-1. I'm being a little bit snarky, obviously, but this is the point. I think that Miami just does have a habit of sort of, stepping on a rake, right? They just find a way to say, oh, hey, we're having a good season. Should I throw picks in Dallas? Yes, I should throw picks in Dallas. That's what I should do. Fortunately, I guess they don't have a trip to Dallas this year. But what they do have, they do play at Clemson. That's never an easy game. No matter what you think about Clemson, that's never an easy game. And they do play at Notre Dame. If you drop both those games, I already win. So, you throw in one more step on a rake. Is it Duke excited to play their old quarterback and some of the hard feelings there? Is it, Virginia Tech with the new coach? Is it, Pitt with a little bit of a plucky thing? Does Florida State find a way to bounce back? There's just a lot of situations there for me where I feel like they can step on a rake. They can find a way to mess it up. And I do not think, by the way, I'm not going to hate on them as much as I have in the past because I've definitely been the vocal supporter of, set your watch. Miami's going to, blow it. I don't think we're quite there, right? I think that they did a lot to prove the naysayers wrong with their playoff run. I also think it's true to say that this is not the easiest of schedules to see. I think they're splitting, essentially saying that they split Clemson and Notre Dame to hit the over there. I don't know that that's a guaranteed lock, and you're still giving me one just random stupid game to do. They could still make the playoffs at 10-2. They could still make a run in the playoffs at 10-2 because I still think they'll be a good enough team. I might be a slight Darian Mensah hater. I don't think he's quite at that level that we've seen from their last couple quarterbacks. And again, that's just kind of the game that they're playing in the portal, right? When you play the game in the portal, you have to hit evals every time. You have to hope that the opportunity is there every single time. Don't know that they got the quarterback that they maybe would have wanted at number one. I'm sure they'll tell you different. I just don't think you're getting the same level quarterback play. Lost a couple pieces on that defense as well. It's just really hard for me to say that this is going to be the Miami year that they go 11-1 or 12-0.
Yeah, it does feel like they're due for a stinker in the quarterback carousel portal, right? Everybody has one at some point that has relied on a new quarterback every single year. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how they follow up. And again, like you said, 10-2 is not the worst thing in the world. probably playing for an ACC title now that the ACC fixed their tiebreaker rules and all can be right in the world as long as they win that and get in. But I'm going to stay in the Sunshine State, Garrett, for my under here. I'm going to go up to Tallahassee and take the Florida State Seminoles. They are sitting there at 6.5. And Garrett, I am going to be honest, I don't see a path to a bowl game for Florida State as I'm sitting here in April. They picked up Ashton Daniels in the transfer portal, who did some nice things in relief of Jackson Arnold when he was at Auburn the last couple of years. Had no help at all at Stanford before that and was a nice bright spot on those teams. But I just don't see him as a player that can carry Florida State through the schedule that they have this year. 4 of their 5 offensive line starters are probably going to be transfers, so who knows how fast that can gel. And it's just a program that I don't trust, plain and simple. If they lose one game, I'm going to pick them to lose the next 2 because that always seems to happen. They're just such a streaky team. Here's how their schedule rolls out this year, Garrett. They do play on week 0 against New Mexico State at home. I think that's going to help them a lot. But then they host SMU on Labor Day night. And then they go to a pissed-off Alabama team that they beat last year. And I know Alabama is going to have a lot of stuff to figure out. I know they have their own warts, and shine has worn off that program, absolutely. But I still think they're probably going to be circling that one.
Yeah, they're going to be up
to get
for
some
that
revenge
one
from last year. Here's who they draw in the ACC, though. Host Virginia, who beat them last year. Go to Louisville, who's probably going to be the second or third best team in this conference. They go to Miami. They host Clemson. They go to Pitt, and they host NC State. That is about as tough of an ACC conference schedule. They can beat Pitt, maybe. I don't know, man. Pitt is
they can
really
be
solid. Pitt does things better. Pitt does more things better consistently than Florida State's done.
Yeah, I'm saying it's possible. I don't think any of those other games are wins right now.
Yeah, that SMU game is going to be fascinating because, like I said,
it's going to be desperate.
It'll be SMU's first game, and it'll be Florida State will have already played, so that'll be a nice advantage for the Noles. But Rhett Lashley having a whole offseason to get ready for that one and finally getting a national primetime spot with all the nation's eyes, that feels like a massive moment that SMU is going to try to live up to. So big vibes game there right off the bat to start the year. I don't think Mike Norvell is necessarily the guy you want in a big vibes game. I think he needs no one to believe in him. And then the second everybody starts to believe in him again, he's going to lose that trust. So I'm out on Florida State this year.
Yeah, and that's even assuming that they don't come out and maybe lay a bit of a stinker, like win like a 17-10. Like if they do that in the opener, it's going to get real nervous and it's going to be real pucker time in that locker room going into the SMU game. That's going to be dangerous. I don't think that happens, by the way. I'm just saying, like, if they don't come out sharp, ready to go, firing on all cylinders, they throw like a pick in the first quarter or something like that, just kind of mess with their food. Whew, it's not going to be good.
Lots of groans, maybe a few boo birds in the Doak if that was to happen. Garrett, I'm going to bring us home here and start our last little section here, I should say, with my last to the moon pick. I'm going to go with the NC State Wolfpack here. You can get them at plus 3,000. I guess I like that number. I think that's like my second or third one to be plus 3,000. Yeah. But you can get them at plus 3,000 to win the ACC. And I really like that you're sensing a theme here. It's okay. CJ Bailey's back as a junior. This is now his second full year. This will be his second full year as the full-time starter. Yes, they lost some really awesome pieces. Hollywood Smothers, amazing running back that they lost to Texas in the portal. But NC State, I feel like, is due for a nice bounce back year. And I know every time that we try to believe in the Wolfpack in the past, they've kind of let us down a little bit. It's been a minute since Dave Doeren has broken through and had a big season. But if he's ever going to do it, his junior quarterback, who might be one of the best in the conference, in a schedule that looks like this, Garrett, his ACC games, they're playing Virginia. I think that game's in Brazil because we're doing that now. Yeah, that's in Rio de Janeiro on week 0, which, okay, if we're going to play international games, I would rather it be in a similar time zone. So we've got that going for
at least
us, which is nice.
The same hemisphere.
the same hemisphere. We're not trying to cross the international date line or something like that, or prime meridian or something. But NC State and Virginia and Brazil, okay, that very interesting to export college football down to South America. They've got a very interesting trip to Vanderbilt in the non-conference, a Vandy team that's obviously going to be replacing a lot. That can be a good opportunity, but their ACC schedule is manageable, man. It's Louisville at home, Wake Forest at home, at Stanford, Cal at home, Duke at home, Syracuse at home, at Florida State, and at North Carolina. So they miss Clemson, they miss Miami, they miss SMU. Can't really set up much better from a returning production and easy schedule standpoint.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this should be a good year for him. I mean, I feel like we say that every year, but it maybe this year. Who knows? Maybe this is one of your I was just a year early on him teams. Who knows? Maybe you're just 5 years early on him. Who knows? I don't know. I do like the pick for what it's worth. I like mine a little bit better on this one. I'm taking Virginia Tech, man. Send me to Blacksburg.
I love that pick.
I'm possibly doing this mostly to represent Mitch right now because I know that this would be the one that Mitch is taking for everything. He's already shouting
some James Franklin, man.
He loves James Franklin. He loves Virginia Tech too. It's fun. Here's the complaint about James Franklin though: is he couldn't win the big game. Well, I've got some great news. Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, not on the schedule, buddy. You're gonna be all right. It's gonna be okay. You can't possibly finish third or fourth to those guys anymore. If you're looking for big games, stop me when you hear one. VMI, Old Dominion, at Maryland, at Boston College, Pitt, at Cal, Georgia Tech. Anything interesting yet? I don't think so. Do they start 7-0? Are we talking about a 7-0 Virginia Tech team storming into Death Valley to go play Clemson at the end of October?
Please.
Gosh, I hope so. That'd be so much fun. As long as he doesn't fall down or something like that, we're going to be all right. You do have at Clemson, you do have at SMU, you do have at Miami. That's tough. Okay, we're not going to pretend like it's not. Other than that, Stanford, end of the year against Virginia, I think this is doable. Both those games at home, by the way. So, you got 3 tough road games. I get it. He's going to have a little bit of a chance to get a monkey off of his back, but are we talking about 9-3, 10-2 at Virginia Tech this year? I think it's possible.
Man, I hope so. Lane Stadium, the fans there just deserve so much better than what they've gotten over the past decade or so. I remember turning on a game last fall when they had already fired their coach, and there's no reason for the stadium to be packed, but all the fans were still there and willing their team to a victory.
But how cool could it be?
I want that so bad for them.
How cool could it be if on that last Saturday of the year, Virginia Tech means something, right? What if it meant something? What if it meant a berth in the ACC championship game somehow?
Yeah, not both teams playing for bowl eligibility.
Right. What if it meant that? Actually, and they put that game at night. Right. It's a night game. Last Saturday of the year, you get to go and you watch, the game in the morning slate. You get to watch you get the Iron Bowl, and then you get to go sit there at the end of the day, turn on ABC, enter Sandman plays, That'd just be a lot of fun. I want it. Chills. I selfishly want it as a college football fan. I want them to, find a way to knock off, Clemson or Miami, find their way up to 10-2-ish. Come on, do it for me. Do it for college football, Virginia Tech. We believe in you.
Well, with that, we will wrap the episode there. That's all 4 power conferences, looking at some overs, some unders, and the To the Moon shots in the dark. Great episode. I'm really excited. It has me fired up for football. I wish we could start in a couple weeks, but we got all the way till the end of August, of course, before week 0 comes along. Keep it right here. We will have all of the coverage leading up to the season for you guys. Make sure you subscribe, following along on all the socials and all that good stuff. Let us know in the comments as well who you're taking over, who you're taking under, and who your To the Moon pick is this year. For that man over there, Mr. Garrett Turney, for Mitch Mason, I am Trey Reeves. We'll see you guys next time.